Welcome to our latest Handle Internally podcast. I'm Ed Tate from BlueBombers.com, joined by Darren Cameron, the co-host and the Blue Bombers chief consigliere, and our very special guest via Zoom from London, Ontario, Andrew Harris. Thanks for joining us, Andrew.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, here we are.
Good intro, Ed.
Here we are. We tried to. There we go. We tried to do this.
Through it.
We tried to do this a couple of weeks ago, but a certain airline kind of the whole thing up, and Andrew was 6 hours late, so we weren't able to do it. So here we are on Zoom, which is just as good.
Yeah.
Great to see you, buddy.
Yeah.
Great to see you too. Great to see
So
you guys.
what are you doing out there, man? What's going on out there?
So I got a really good job opportunity with Hadi Abbasi's company. So Hadi was the owner of the junior team I played for. I played in Nanaimo. So I worked in that company, just as a laborer, and I worked my way up in that realm. And then it went public about 7-8 years ago now. So I was working for an outfit we had in Carmen, Manitoba. So we sell engineered wood products to commercial, residential builders, general contractors. So we got 3 plants here in Ontario. So I'm working out here and working with 3 plants and, building up the sales and business development side of things. And it's been good. It's been busy, and don't know a soul here in London other than a couple people. But so it's nice to just focus on family and work and, just be away from the noise for a bit. So yeah, it's been a great transition, and everyone's really happy. So it's awesome.
Good, man. Listen, we'll get into the whole career thing here in a second, but we want to kind of kick things off with you got a special date coming up here on the 27th at the Met with the debut of the showing of your documentary that's been years in the making. It feels like.
Yeah.
But there's a lot going on that night, more than just the showing of it. So maybe take us through what the plan is.
Yeah, I mean it's so the premiere screening of my documentary Running Back Relentless. Something I'm really excited about, and a lot of vulnerability that went into this film, a lot of time and effort. We teamed up with 3 Down Nation, as them on the back end, and Upper Canada Films, Servco Canada, Samantha Mason Foundation. So we have some great partners within the film. Taylor Prestige has been a guy that I've been working with, back when we had the Team Shaw days, and we built a relationship up, on camera, off camera, and it seemed like a great fit. And brought on Andrew Brio, a childhood friend, I grew up with. He's in the music industry here in Toronto, and just the whole production value as far as people understanding my story and being able to be honest and open with some of the struggles and successes, and just tell my story. And the big thing for me is, like everyone sees, the show and the things I did on the field, but there's a lot of things that went on behind the scenes that I kind of struggled with while still performing at a high level, and even not performing at a high level because of these things. And my big message here is to make sure that if I can influence one person from this film, and open some eyes to getting someone over that hill or under that rock, and out of that darkness that I was in, it's a win for me. And then another big side of this whole event is I'm really excited to be retiring as a Winnipeg Blue Bomber, officially. Just talking with you guys and going through this process. Being a Winnipeg born kid and watching the Bombers grow up, I lived out a childhood dream, playing for them and playing for you guys and in front of my friends and family, and ending that 29-year drought was a highlight of my career. And in the film, you'll kind of see, that was the ultimate kind of goal for me, career wise. And going through the transition of going to Toronto and everything, and now just being like, hey, like that was the highlight of my career. Those 5 years I played with the Bombers was really something special, and an absolute roller coaster ride. At the best of times. So for me, just kind of reflecting on that, and then doing the premiere at the Met. I'm really looking forward to the night, just celebrating that 1 day contract. I'm still working on that signing bonus with Wade still, but we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah. He'll get back to you.
Yeah, good luck on that.
So you're actually going to be signing a contract on the stage on the 27th. So that's what a way to finally end it.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, it's be a great night with friends, family, and some fans that are going to be coming out, and the people in the community in Winnipeg. Really, that helped me get through, and get me to where I'm at. I got some high school coaches coming. I got my trainer from Elite coming, and obviously the crew of people from my friends and family, and the media and all the great sponsors are part of it. So I'm really looking forward to a great night. Come dressed up and put your best on, black tie event, red carpet, something that Winnipeg's never really seen before and never really done before. So I'm excited to have a great event, great night. It's going to be a little crazy with the Jets going on, Jets playoffs, but we're going to work our way around that and make sure that we have a good time and celebrate it. And again, the film is the big side of it, of just telling my story and letting it all air out. And then this will be actually on Apple TV, come this summer. So I think our launch date's middle of June, right before the season starts. It'll be on Apple TV for everyone to view and stream. But this will be the first look see for everyone to kind of get the first opportunity to watch the film and just get a glimpse of my story, as a raw kind of my side of the story and just the raw version of it and letting it all out.
Yeah. So before we get into the doc and a large portion of your career, where can people get tickets? Because fans can come to this. There are some tickets still left, and fans can show up.
So you can go to 33film.ca to get your tickets there. You can also go to Show Pass and just look up Running Back Relentless. It'll be on there as well. But all your information will be on 33film.ca. You can actually put your email in there for any updates and news that comes out. 33film.ca is the place to get it. And I think we're going to be doing a contest with the Bombers as well too, and giving away some tickets as well. So keep your eyes peeled for that, Bomber fans. And I'm looking forward to just connecting and seeing some familiar faces and taking some pictures and signing some autographs and just having a great evening.
Yeah. April 27th at the Met, Andrew Harris' documentary, and also signing a contract to retire as a Blue Bomber. Sounds like a good night to me.
Yeah. How about that for a sales pitch?
Let's let it go.
Just take that little clip there and put that on the radio. Maybe not as a sales pitch for it. Andrew, I wanted to maybe run back a little bit to the one-day contract thing, because it kind of puts a ribbon on your career, right, or a bow on your career. It's done. But the decision to retire as a Bomber, you could have retired as a BC Lion or an Argonaut. And, the way things ended here, it wasn't the cleanest breakup. Maybe we could talk about why you decided that it was going to be here. That you mentioned your hometown, but why here?
Yeah, I think if I go back to early 2022, going through those contract negotiations or lack thereof, and I was bitter and I was upset, and as any competitor would be, any leader of a team, anyone who's done anything, or even if they haven't, you don't get that that response that you're looking for. It definitely rubbed me the wrong way. And people can say what they want, people can react how they want, but at the end of the day, it was my emotions that led me to being in the situation for me to leave and wanting to go to Toronto and a different opportunity. And one of the things I kind of highlight in the film is talking about I'm happy I went because of the growth from a personal side, from a teammate side. And me not being so reliant on the dominance on the field and having to focus more of the leadership side of things. And you look at the Bomber locker room and the way that locker room and team operates, and it's the cream of the crop as far as the CFL goes. And even if you looked at the NFL, I'm sure if people got a good look see of how the locker rooms ran, there's no one better, right? For me, going to the Argos was an eye-opening opportunity for me, and one that I took full head of steam, and that leadership side of things really honed in. But at the end of the day, I look back at my experience, going through my transition out there and playing the 2 years I did, a way different role, and a way different role from when I was in BC, starting off my career. And a lot of people thought my career was done when I was kind of signing with the Bombers back in 2016. So for me, and my family, and the people that truly love me, I think being a Bomber for life and retiring as a Bomber was the only right way to do it. And again, just clearing that air with the fan base, the community, and everyone that, there's still mutual respect there from my side and from your camp, Bombers camp. And I think, the understanding of, everyone, it's a business at the end of the day, and things didn't go, and it's never always going to be a storybook ending. But this is the best way for me to kind of cap it off the right way. And, again, utmost respect for everyone in that organization. And, it just felt like the perfect way to cap off, what, a 14-year career for myself, and do it with the team that I felt I made the most impact with, and one that I want to, rest with for the rest of my life.
So after the 21 season, maybe like take us through what happened in regards to where did this, how did you end up in Toronto? I know these answers, by the way. That's why you're smiling at me. But I mean, I'm not asking for myself.
Man, you were right there along.
Yeah, I know.
Along the way with me.
I know.
And I think the big thing for me was, and as you know, it was just the lack of communication. And at that point in time, I still stand by this. Even in business now, I think whether it's good news or bad news, whether whatever it is, if you have a relationship with a client, a teammate, a player, staff, you just got to communicate to them how you're feeling and where things are going. And I think, even though the writing might have been on the wall, just based off of, my actions and my attitude, and the way my life was going at that time, maybe they felt like, and I say they're a couple individuals, but that they didn't feel like they could communicate to me. But at the end of the day, I was open and waiting to hear, and honestly, probably could have went a lot different way if there's that communication. But the lack of communication, there was no communication, and and then just the offer that I got, kind of at the ninth hour, really just rubbed me the wrong way. And I just felt like I deserved a bit more than that. And again, people are gonna have their opinions on that, but don't know the details. And it was tough. I mean, I was already, and you'll see this in the documentary, going through a lot of things, and in that own right. But for myself, I was really upset. Really felt disrespected. I really was, you know, the teammates for me was the hard part, right? The
Yeah.
bonds, and this, like, guys in that locker room are so tight. I look
Yeah.
at, across the board, the guys that have been there from my reign from 2016 to 2021, the relationships and the quality of guys in that locker room, and the coaching staff. That part to me was the hardest part. Having to leave that, and then going to something new. But it was a tough time for me, and I really felt I deserved more. And but I also, me at that time, and it worked out,
Yeah.
that following year.
Yeah. Well, there you go. The smile. Yeah. It's interesting because I remember going through obviously that entire process, but that day, the free agency day, where there was still things happening. Like there was a lot of like, I gotta be careful how I word this, but like there was a lot of stuff going on, and then you got this offer from Toronto. Kind of like, maybe take us through how that unfolded, because obviously they came out and so you text me and said, "Hey, we got to figure this out, because if not, I'm going to the Argos." Now, was there anybody else involved in that?
Yeah, so I've been talking to Neil McAvoy, had a
Yeah.
relationship with him in BC. I was talking to G-Roy Simon, in Edmonton, and this was the petty side of me too. I actually reached out to Saskatchewan on my own, and never heard back from them still. So yeah, it was. But yeah, I was at that point, where I was like, hey, where can I really go to get another opportunity to play, and still do what I love. And then I actually reached out to Pete Costanza. He was the receiver coach, or still is the receiver coach here for the Argos. And he's like, man, I didn't even think that you'd be an option and wanting to leave. And
Yeah.
I was kind of just told him the situation. And then literally like 2 minutes later, Pinball called me, and Pinball is just like a ball of energy and excitement. And once I started talking to him, I kind of told him where I was at. And then as far as the negotiation standpoint, it was really one call, and
Yeah.
he kind of asked me what I wanted, and I put it out there, and they said, "Yep, let's go." So it was a pretty quick process. And again, going to a place where you feel like you're wanted and appreciated, especially in that moment for me was the biggest thing.
Sure.
The money side, it was important. I have a young family and mouths to feed. But going where you're wanted and appreciated, and what your role was in that situation was a big one for me. And they were throwing all that at me, which
Yeah.
was an ideal situation for me. And again, one that I was ready to jump for. And it was scary too. I mean, moving to a new city, and Toronto is a freaking madhouse, and in its own right. And yeah, it was an awesome. Looking back at it now, I needed to do that. I don't think I'd be where I'm at today. The mindset, the clarity, you know, as well rounded as I become, if I would have stayed, playing in Winnipeg and retired maybe that year after. I think I needed to do this, and God works in wondrous ways, and I really believe there was a reason for all this happening, and it really got me into a different realm of understanding what it's like to be a teammate, a partner, a friend, and just well-rounded me more as a human being,
Yeah.
as a whole, for sure.
So, Ed and I have seen this dog. It's absolutely awesome. But one of the things it does highlight is kind of what went on in 21, and we were pretty quiet about that publicly. Some of the stuff I didn't even know that you were going through, and we won't share it all, obviously. But do you think that hole would have gotten deeper had you stayed?
Yeah, I mean, it was just trending in the wrong way.
Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of this stuff kind of started going downhill for me personally, in 19. After the suspension, and then just some personal stuff going on. And even though I was and we were able to accomplish, the 29-year drought, and win this, win this Grey Cup, and the fans, the city, the community, the team was just blown up, and we're
Yeah.
on top. That was literally like a 3-4 week period where I was like on top of the world. But then as soon as that was over, and we get into Christmas, and then it's COVID,
Yeah.
and I'm just, the personal stuff just kind of keeps weighing on me, and I was like, holy shit. And then there's like no season, you know what I mean? And it was just like, go from being here, 2019 season, I'm absolutely killing it, and then this news comes out, and I'm trying to fight that battle, being like trying to prove my innocence, and get everything kind of at bay, and appeal, and sending off all the independent testing, and trying to clear my name that way, to being like, what, to go into to going to see Dr. Too Good and just ball my eyes out, and then dealing with the teammate side of things, of how I'm going to get back in this locker room, and become that same guy again after going through such a low point, to getting through the playoffs, winning, MVP, most valuable Canadian, having a monster game, and the drought, and then all of a sudden, boom, we're in this COVID era, and I'm kind of just getting back. I go right back down to that place, but then it even gets lower because, it was just too much for me to deal with, and
Yeah.
I pushed a lot of people away from me. I pushed a lot of people away from me just by my actions, by my emotions, and just trying to isolate myself, because I didn't trust anyone. I didn't know, who was there for me for real, or if it was because of what I just accomplished on the field. And I really got into this weird dark place. Then we get through COVID, and the season's canceled, and then we get back to 21, and that's kind of what I'm going through, all my personal stuff still. And I come to the season hurt, and that's when it starts getting really mucky with the Bombers, right? And especially with O'Shea, a guy that would come over and have a beer with me, and we'd shoot the shit, and we had a personal relationship that we built up over those 4 or 5 years. So yeah, it was tough. And then you go through that season, and then I kind of get back in the field, and I'm back kind of doing my thing again, and then get hurt again. And then throughout that whole process, I kind of would get to a point where I was feeling better again, and then something would happen, and I would just it was just like a switch for me, and a click that would put me back down into a deep dark hole. And again, I'd get into that isolation mode, and that victim mode. And again, and I know too, Darren, like you've always been there. You can talk to me, you can tell me, and you can probably attest this too. I was really, really jaded and closed off at that point in time, and I didn't
Yeah.
really let anyone in because I didn't trust anyone, and I was really, I felt, and you'll see this in the documentary. I felt at that point in time like I did when I was, 8, 9, 10 years old, going through the shit that I was going through,
Yeah.
the trauma that I was going through. Then I just wanted to be away from everyone and hide yeah, it was a dark, disgusting place for me, and you know, a lot of deep things that were going through my mind and scary things going through my mind, and luckily I had some chosen people that were there for me, and football as a saving grace in a way, but it ultimately damaged my career, and especially with the organization that I loved so much, and the building where I felt the safest, where I didn't feel as safe there anymore, and I didn't feel as comfortable as I used to, and that process was tough, and again, reflecting on that now, going back to that year in 21, and being as pissed off as I was going through free agency, it's totally understandable. And if I was a head coach GM, I probably would have made the same decision as they did. And that's why kind of reflecting on it now, I can appreciate and understand where they're coming from, and everything's all good. I'm happy in a place where I can actually be grown up to say it is what it is, and I grew from that situation, and I'm better for it.
Yeah, I'll turn it over to Ed in 1 second. The 21 season's interesting because you were a different person than every other year. 16, we'll talk about that in a second, just the start of it, because it's looking back kind of just funny now, but also it's kind of encapsulates you coming back and dealing with that too. But 21 was different. You were different. You were kind of just different to everybody. And I was,
Yeah.
like you, there were times where you weren't here, and it was I think everybody knew that something was going on, but you didn't certainly not share it with anyone that I know. And that must have been tough, man, dealing with that stuff, and not really coming out and talking about it much.
Yeah, and I mean, the biggest thing for me is I grew up not having anyone, there for me, that I could trust, and again, talking. Don't want to give away too much of this doc, but
Yeah.
just talking, just not having trust, and then, like I
Yep.
said, that year for me was very reflective of my childhood, and going back to some of the traumas and things that I had to deal with back then, and it was a frightening place because I'd just been on top and done everything that I wanted to do,
Yep.
So when you get back in that place, it's like, holy shit, I'm in this box right now. It's scary. Who can I really rely on? Who's and yeah, it was a freaking nightmare, man.
Yeah.
It was a freaking nightmare.
I'll just say they did that documentary. The amount of access that they needed, even coming to Winnipeg for a game that you weren't even playing in, and obviously seeing it. There's things that we can sit here and talk about, certain aspects of it, but you'll never be able to put it into the way the documentary.
You have to see the documentary.
It's
very, very well done. And one of the things that it really captured, and you've been really honest just in our conversation here, Andrew, is that there in that documentary, you kind of you are exposed. Like there's a lot of documentaries you watch where it looks like it's being done by the PR firm of that athlete, right? Like everything's glossed over, everything's candy and rainbows. But in this thing, like it's really raw. And that's, I think, the compelling part of it is that the story isn't glossed over. And I can tell you didn't want it that way because it has to be honest, right? But there's you've got a lot of anger in this documentary towards people. You've got a lot of, and then but it's everything. There's the anger, the satisfaction, the vindictiveness that you had, the relentlessness, and then at the end, you just mentioned it. You're happy now, and that's really is a full circle story, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see, and even to media always talks about this chip on my shoulder, and I always put this chip, and I'm always having something to prove, and everyone thinks it's just it's based off of your play, having something to prove on your play, but for a lot of athletes, for a lot of people, whether it's business, whether it's they're in school, they're trying to prove their parents wrong, or their professor, or You know, it can relate to so many different people, right? And that was the goal for me here, is that my story, yes, it was athletic based. Yes, it was based off of, some trauma. Yes, it was based off of me coming into the league, from the back door through junior, and having to work my ass off to get to where I'm at. But it's so relatable in so many different people's lives in different situations. And I wanted to be able to tell that story as raw as possible. And that's why we had to partner with certain people that were able to, come on this and be okay with that, being exposed and having their name attached to it. And especially from the side of things that, you know, I need to be able to be honest and open with this, and I need to be able to express myself the way I need to. And again, if this can change, inspire, help one person, it's a win for me. And I don't want anyone ever to feel the way I felt, in certain times. And I want to be able to, inspire and help change and make sure that people are aware of the mental health and the trauma that people go through at, at an early age, that, as much as they might be putting on this front and this facade and this show, and they're on top, and they're, coming to work and they're doing great, but there's a reason why everyone does things, right? What's your purpose? What's your why? And mine has always been, yes, I got to prove people wrong, but there's also been, when certain things are said or done, and people are a certain way to you, it's not just a chip, it's deeper than that. And I think ultimately, like, that really got me to where I'm at today, because it was way more than a chip in my shoulder. There was actual hatred. There was actual, I need to shut this fucking guy up. I need to shut, I really need to, and that's the way I am. I'm an ultimate competitor. And it's funny, like, I watched the Michael Jordan documentary, and I'm like, ah, man, me and MJ are the same guy, like, but that's talking to the
Yeah,
greatest athlete in the world in my eyes. But there's parallels there, right?
yeah,
And even telling my story to documentary crew and the people that have been filming it, and I'm like explaining situations where I've been an actual, like, absolute psycho about how I've been looking at things. I'm like, you don't think that way? They're like, no, no, we don't. So there's a little bit of a twisted side to high level, successful athletes or successful people in any realm. And I think, people can relate to that. And there's also people that aren't, in that same realm, but they need that kind of push and inspiration to maybe help them get to that next level. And again, that's my goal here, is to just be relatable. It is a football documentary, it is a football story, but I think it can relate to a lot of people in a lot of different levels.
Handled internally, brought to you by PlayNow.com. Bomber fans, PlayNow.com reminds you that when you bet on blue, there's only one legal online sportsbook in Manitoba, only one that guarantees your winnings, and only one where the profits stay here to support your community. Play your Bombers at PlayNow.com, your hometown sportsbook. Enjoy responsibly. And now, on to the show. Yeah, you've got some scars, right? From your emotional, physical scars from your life. And you wouldn't, like you said, you probably wouldn't be where you are or had the success that you had if you didn't have to overcome those things, right? Because if it had been easy all along the way, we might not be talking about all the accomplishments, because you wouldn't have had to battle so much.
Yeah, I mean, that's everyone's got their story, and for whatever reason, I talk about God, and even too, just the religious side of myself has been more, more understanding and open to that as well too. I think God has a plan for everyone, and you make your decisions along the way, and how you're going to handle those things. And um, it as hard as it has been, I don't think I could ever gone through a situation where I had the most ideal, opportunities, the most ideal, upbringing, the most ideal, education, or being, having everything handed to me, or just had better opportunities. And I think I needed to fight the way I need to fight to get to where I'm at. And you know, even now, raising, my daughter Hazel and Axton, and trying to instill those same kind of mindsets, but being there as a loving father, which I didn't have growing up. It's a difficult thing to kind of navigate, but I think it's important to have both sides of it, and be able to understand and communicate that. And yeah, man, it's like I said, I'm sitting here now being on the other side of it and happy and excited about my next career, my next chapter. And but it was a bitch to get through. And I honestly, as much as the accomplishments, you know, the rings, the yardage, the all the things were great. I'm honestly more proud of myself from the way that I handled getting out of those situations, more than anything, because a lot of people this would have crippled them, and you know, for myself, I think that's why it's so important for me to be able to tell this story and be vulnerable about it, because I think honestly that you know I was in a spot where I was suicidal, you know, and I was really thinking like, fuck this, I'm done. Like
Yeah.
I'm ending this. Like this is too much. I've been through so much. Like why does this keep stacking on me? And I think I'm more proud of myself than anything about that side of things than even all the success on the field.
So all this is going on mentally, kind of quietly, and then free agency happens. You end up in Toronto. Was it weird playing for another team, or how, or at that point you had just adjusted and moved on? Because sure as shit, it ends up Winnipeg and Toronto in the Grey Cup. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think, you know, they sent me a care package after I signed, right? And I mean, my house, there's blue and gold everywhere, and
Yeah.
you know, like I, I don't know that. Yeah, it was ridiculous. I could never imagine myself playing for another team. To be honest with you, like that was my mindset. I was like, I'm here for life, and
Yeah.
this is my team, right? Um, so yeah, it was strange. It was strange for sure. I mean, I get out to the training camp, and even trying to find a house in Toronto was a headache. And I'm like, I went through these moments, and I was like, man, is this the right decision? You know, I'm looking at the housing prices and all the different things going on with that. And I get out there, and you know, I look at my locker, and you know, I got my pads that I have there, and I opened my bag, and I had my stuff shipped out, and I opened my bag, and everything's, you know, bomber stuff, and I'm like, okay, you know, and I'm looking around, you know, so there was a lot of different things where I was like, man, like, this just feels weird.
Yeah.
But then I get on the field, I run out to the field, and I'm like, shit, it's just football, right?
Yeah.
It's just football. You got to go play. You know, you got your playbook, you got to study, you got your teammates you got to gel with, and but the biggest thing was the culture in Toronto was like night and fucking day
Yeah.
compared to what it was in Winnipeg. And I mean, I'm talking about the fighting, the arguing, like the cliques within the team. Just the day to day was way different. I mean, even too, like you look at the Argos, and I have tons of love for the Argos, but their setup is, as far as an organization, is just way more complicated than anything I can imagine. Right? You have to take a school bus to practice, and you know we have our locker. Everything was just different, and then we're right in the middle of the exhibition ground, so there's indie races. There's freaking basically the Red River X that goes on like for 3 weeks during the season that we have to navigate. There's all these types of there's just so much stuff going on around it. A lot of distractions. And then Toronto just being, you know, Toronto, right?
Yeah.
So being there, it was like, hey, you know, trying to adjust to that. And then I just was like, hey, my play is not the same as it was, you know, in 18, 19, going. And I'm like, I've definitely lost a step, but I'm still impactful. And this team's looking for something from me, you know, and at that point, and I figured this out kind of in training camp, was leading by example. If I'm a 35-year-old running back and I'm finishing every run, and I'm playing and bringing a certain attitude to practice and training camp every single day, you know, and making sure that I'm taking care of my body and studying and making sure, because I'm learning a new playbook where, you know, Buck and Lapo's offense, I knew like the back of my hand, you know, and now learning a new offense. And even that was an adjustment. But if I can just lead by example and just push the envelope, and the older guys on the team kind of relied on me in that sense, and looked at me, and I got called out a lot because there's team meetings, and you know shit was going on, and like, yeah, like, what do you think, Andrew? And I'm like, oh, I'm thinking
Yeah.
like, you want to know how I really feel? Like this team is fucked right now. But I'm like, we have lots of talent, but everyone is just playing for themselves. No one was playing for the guy beside him. That whole mantra of "you got my back, I got your back" was not there at all. And that was my message: is like, hey man, like we're not going to go anywhere unless you play for the guy beside you, unless you care about the guy behind you and the guy behind him. Because yeah, you can worry about yourself and your stats and what you do every day on the day to day, But if you don't care about the player behind you or the guy next to you, we are not going to go anywhere. And that was kind of the way I saw the team when I came in. And then we kind of get to the season and we're going through things, and things start to change and we start playing for each other. And really ultimately that's when I was like, really that's where I felt my impact was the greatest on that season, was, kind of saying that message. And we had guys like Speedy and JG and, these guys that, we compete against, for the last 2 years, playing in Hamilton, and I'm playing with these guys, and I can kind of understand, why the way they were structured the way they were, and now trying to reframe, and a different mindset to a guy like Speedy or JG or the rest of the guys on the team as well. So it was an interesting year, interesting, transition. And again, talk about the yards and stats and all that stuff and the rings. And I think, me growing as a leader, as a teammate, that's one of the things I'm most proud of, is being able to, take a piece of some of the things that I helped build and be a part of in Winnipeg, and bring that to the Argos organization, which, led to, the greatness that we were able to accomplish in 2022.
He says that with a chuckle. I got to ask you about that, though, because, I mean, you talked about the transition for yourself, not just moving there and a different team, but your role as a player, and maybe gearing down in that role too. It sucks for us, but what a ending, and in Regina that year. And the thing I can remember is after the game, Darren can tell a story too, but from my own experience, I mean, I'm writing about a loss just outside a Bomber locker room that's pretty emotional, and about 20 feet away is the Argo locker room, and it's just going crazy. And I mean, I'm still writing a story. I'm not interviewing you. I send you a note saying, "Hey, congrats," and right away you send me a note back saying, "Thanks, appreciate that." But so there was this weird, still kind of a connection with Winnipeg too, and I know Darren can just build on that. Maybe you want to add a layer too.
Yeah, well, we had, because of the amount of staff we had on the trip, obviously we had a lot of the content groups set up outside the locker room. So we had the doors closed to the locker room still at that point. Obviously, tough time for those guys. And in order to get to the press conference room, you had to walk past the home locker room from the visitors side. And we had a bunch of staff with the other Andrew had worked with for a number of years, and he came by, and it was told to me quickly afterwards that stopped and gave everyone a hug. Didn't really say much, just gave everyone a hug. And it's interesting because that, so many people, and I'm sure internally you were feeling a variety of different things, but that's the type of person we're dealing with.
A lot of people would have said, walked by and said, "F you."
Yeah, and I'm sure there were emotions, and we can speak. We don't want to speak for him, but there were emotions that were saying that.
Yeah.
But he knows what that feeling would have been like for people that, that were on the other side of it, and how much it hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and being the competitor and the guy that I am, that was something that I might have done in a different situation. But, the people in that organization are family to me. I look at Al, I look at Fadi, I look at, you two guys, I look at the guys on the team, and there's a list and a number of people within the organization that I consider family, and I can pick the phone up and call and, catch up with, and, never miss a beat with, right? So as much as it was amazing to win and do that, walking past the locker room and just seeing the emotion from your side of things, I just wanted to hug you guys and hug the people that I saw, and just let them know that I love them still, and there's utmost respect, and it was as much as that was my goal, and I wanted to be like, yeah, fuck you, Bombers,
Sure.
but I still had a lot of love and respect. And I know even too, after the game, I remember chasing down Dembski and Brady and the guys on the line, and the people that I really built really solid, really great relationships with, and that I had before and after, and still do. It's just a mutual respect, and as much as people might think I'm an asshole or arrogant or cocky or whatever they want to call me, my teammates will always give you the best the best story of what kind of guy I am. And for me, that was hands down the raw emotion and how I felt. And I care about those guys. I care about you guys, and I know how that would have felt. And I also just wanted to be able to respect, the battle we just had on the field too, because that was a fucking game, you
Mm.
know. And I remember being in a run and like I ran over somebody and being like, oh, you guys are pussies and this and that. And I'm
Yeah.
like just going crazy, and I'm like, what am I doing right now? Like, but that the competitor just comes out of you,
Sure.
right? And
Yeah.
and I just it's the raw emotion. But when the dust settles and you actually just see the people that you have relationships with, and the game is played in the 4 quarters and however long it takes to do it, and you obviously want to tear each other's face off in that moment. But at the end of the day, you're done, and you're still human beings,
Yeah.
and no one's gonna be a player for life. No one's going to be a coach for life. No one's going to
Mm-hmm.
be,
Mm-hmm.
the consigliere, whatever your title is.
Consigliere.
Consigliere.
Yeah.
And no one's going to be, I mean, maybe Ed, maybe you probably got the most lifetime job there as a
Yeah.
writer, so because you're
Probably.
so good at it as well. But at the end of the day, you're still a human. And I think those relationships that you have on a personal level and on a human level are way more important than what goes on the field, in the media, and even in writing a story.
Yeah. So, your final year, you went into last year knowing that was it, no matter what.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's
No matter
obviously
what.
why you did the full year kind of access thing.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, it's crazy because like even now I'm like I could probably squeeze another year out, but in all reality, like my mind is just past it.
Yeah.
My body just doesn't respond the same way. And like just the little things that just pop up that I could kind of just rebound from it just doesn't work the same anymore. And even last year, I mean, there was a big push for me to come back, and be in this role to kind of help develop AJ and kind of spell him and work with him more hands on, and even having that conversation, be like, okay, like I've never been a number two. I've always been the guy, and then I had maybe split some carries here and there, but AJ, great guy, a sponge, watching film with him, breaking things down, and even watching his game kind of elevate to what it's gone to, or even watching Brady, and seeing your influence on, how he played, his first year after I was gone into what it is now, and even how he reacts after touchdowns and first downs, and I'm like, holy shit, like looks a lot like me, buddy,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's amazing to look back and see your influence on like two of the best, the two sought after players in free agency this year, and how you've had a chance to work with amazing talents and amazing players and great human beings and in their own right. And I took that opportunity with AJ and opportunity again just to be like, okay, now I'm even older, and coming back even in the 2022 season from a pec injury that I thought my season was done, and getting back and a lot of that fire was just to get back so I could play in that Grey Cup against
Yeah.
you guys.
Yeah.
That was a
Sure.
big motivator for me.
Sure.
So, but again, coming into this last year, I knew it was my last year, and I knew it was gonna be it, and I just really enjoyed the meetings, the locker room, the road trips, everything about even the days. I remember you'd be like, "Oh, you got to do media today." I'm like, "Oh shit, I hate this." And I was like, "I'm like, all right, okay."
Yeah.
And I didn't have that. There's not much media that covers Argos in Toronto.
Yeah.
The scrums aren't the same.
No.
And I did like only a handful of interviews my last year, which was nice, but just enjoying that whole process even more.
Yeah.
You take for granted a lot of things throughout anyone's career in any realm. And then when you look back at it, you're like, man, you're gonna miss these things. So
Yeah.
last year was a lot of fun for me, based off of just enjoying the process and the workouts, the practice, and just taking everything with grace and humility, and just enjoying that whole process more than I ever have.
I've told people this story or this sentiment before, but I don't think there's ever been a player come through here that has such an impact on a game by game basis, where no matter what happened in the game, I could go to him and be like, "Hey, look, this sucks, but we got to go out there and deal with it." And there were times, not many, but there were a few games where Andrew had fumbled or whatever. Something got fucked up in the game and we lost, and he was involved in it not going the right way.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, way more of the opposite of that. And he still was our, when you're a pro, you just know. And yeah, did he see me coming and be like, oh, fuck?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah.
probably. But that's just the guy that you were dealing with. So just to the last season, because I remember you were out here in September, you weren't playing. I remember asking you on the field, so are you coming back? And we were both kind of like side-eyeing each other because like I was trying to sniff around to get information, but I also was curious. But I wanted to be like, oh, come on, because I obviously was expecting, I think everybody was probably thinking it was going to be Toronto. And so like, what was going on there if you're able to share that? I know that's kind of in the doc, so maybe you don't want to get into that too much, but
Yeah, I mean the
pretty...
details aren't really in the doc, but yeah. So I took a swing pass in I think August last season, and I took a helmet on the knee, hyperextended my knee, and so in 2020 I got in a quad accident during COVID year, and I tore my PCL and my meniscus, and I never got surgery on it because there was a period of time there that I'd be able to wait it out, and it would kind of heal on itself on its own. So I played 2022 and 2023 with a torn PCL and torn medial meniscus. And now I was playing with this injury still, not fully healed, and having tons of movement in my knee, just trying to protect it as much as I could. So 2023 comes around, and I'm now spelling, and the knee was still not feeling the greatest, because I never did get surgery on it. But I took that the helmet on the knee, and so I ended up partially tearing my ACL, and the PCL was still a little bit torn, and then my medial meniscus was torn, and then my lateral meniscus was torn as well. So I was like, hey, if I get surgery to repair it, I'll be done. And then if I get a scope, I can probably I'll be out for that, like those four weeks for sure. And then if I can get my meniscus or my ACL and PCL kind of re-engaged again, I could be strong enough to actually play. And again, the big motivator was thinking, okay, we're gonna go do this dance again, and I'm gonna get in that game and hopefully make an impact. So I really pushed this and rushed it, and I only had about two months to kind of get it back to be back for that playoff game against Montreal. And ultimately, like, that was, and I'd done this before. 2021,
I know.
messed up my hamstring and got back for the Eastern final, and Western final. Sorry, had the game against the Saskatchewan, in the Grey Cup, and in 2022 tear the pec, and get back for the playoffs. We win so I'm like, yeah, like I've done this, why not make it 3 times in a row, right? So I'm battling to do this and working through this, and we had a lot of shit going on that week before the Montreal game, and the vibe was just off. I was still really battling, like personally, just if I felt strong enough, and I had 2 carries for like 3 yards or something like that. My first run, I was played like a chicken shit and cut back too soon, and I wasn't ready. Honestly, wasn't ready.
Yeah.
But I thought I could become superhuman again and overcome this and do something spectacular again. And every candle has so much wick, and my wick is was burnt out at that point in time, and I think I really just pushed it to a point where I thought I could continue to keep doing this, and I wasn't able to overcome it properly and make an impact enough to help us get to the Grey Cup against you guys. But yeah, it was a battle though. Knees are definitely a lot more tricky, especially at running back. With a torn pec, you can kind of protect yourself a little bit more. But yeah, it was a battle, and and I still haven't got surgery on my ACL yet, but it feels great. So maybe I'll come back 1 more year. You guys looking for a fourth string running back?
You might get a call from some team after watching this. Lost my train of thought there for a second. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to ask you, I'm not sure how much longer we're going to keep you on here, Andrew. Appreciate you giving us so much time. One of the things that has been kind of revealed in our conversation here, and it came through, it was a thing at the end of the documentary where your mom said, and you have a complicated relationship with your mom too. She said, I just want Andrew to be happy. and it's come through here. You seem really content with this now. You talk about stepping away and being a dad again. Like, so that I'll just ask the question that your mom said she just wants you to be happy. Are you happy?
Absolutely, man. It's and I think it takes someone to go through some things to really appreciate what that really means. You know what happy means. And I think generally people want to, live life and go about it and be happy and as successful as they can be, and and be, rocks in their family and for their whatever capacity that is. And I think more than anything, you know, kind of going through this vulnerability of my story, my career, and even thinking about what's next for me. I mean, I had some opportunities to coach in the CFL this year, and even I'm director of operations for the Raiders in Nanaimo, and I was the plan was to go coach there, and I'm just ready to step away from football for a bit, and I've given so much to this game on the field, and eventually I'll get back to giving back on the field, but as far as a coaching standpoint, but really just appreciating all the people along the way, all the the highs, the lows, the roller coaster that it was, and you look back at everything you've accomplished, through everything you've been through. Yeah, I mean, and having something that you're excited and passionate about after the game's done. And there's a lot of horror stories about people that are done and they're not ready for it. And for me, that's I'm a big advocate of making sure that guys are really pushing that envelope, because for myself, I didn't go to college, play junior, and I've always tried to do things off the field and make sure that I'm pushing that envelope and getting the experience and building a network and understanding like where do you fit in after football is done. Because a lot of people can't, not everyone can be coaches, not everyone can be in an office position or whatever the capacity is. But now having something I'm passionate about, being comfortable in the life I'm living, I'm really satisfied and probably happier than I've been in a long time. But it's also because I've closed this chapter that really took over my life for the last 20 years. And I'm just talking to Nika, my partner here, and she's like, yeah, like we're I want to go camping and I want to just enjoy a summer. I want to just sit on a dock and just relax. I don't want to be at a football field every day and practicing. Like I just want to step away from the game for a couple of years and just enjoy summers. And again, that's another side that people don't really realize. Like when you become a professional athlete, whether it's in any sport, any league, we as athletes dedicate our whole life to that one thing, and a lot of times it takes over, and it's tough in relationships, it's tough on yourself, and a lot of people don't reach certain heights and levels that I was able to do in my career, and whether they do or not, they still have that same dedication, and it takes away from a lot of things and a lot of opportunities and enjoyment outside of football. So I'm really excited just to enjoy those other things in life. I'm really still just appreciate the things and the influence that I was able to come across and be part of. But so that's the biggest thing, and career wise, financially, home life, it's never been better for me. So I mean, I'm really excited for the next chapter here, and I think honestly, this documentary and telling my story and having the closure with it, with the retirement party, is really just full circle of going through it all, telling it all, and now just appreciating it, and then moving on, which is pretty beautiful.
Yeah. Well, man, listen, we've been taking up almost an hour here. So April 27th. Sign it off one more time as a Blue Bomber and get that 1-day contract, and we'll work on Wade with the signing bonus. He might have some like gift cards or something. I don't know, but who knows with that guy. So thanks, brother. I appreciate it.
The Duffy tax slips. You still have those?
Yeah, I got those in my office. I'll bring them. Hey, brother, thanks so much. Congratulations, man. I'm looking forward to the 27th.
Thanks, Andrew.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, buddy.